Welcome to our web tutorial on filing mobile broadband availability data as part of the Commission's new Broadband Data Collection, or BDC. I'm Jean Cadu, Chair of the Broadband Data Task Force at the FCC. The information in this tutorial will help facilities-based providers of mobile broadband service prepare their broadband availability data submissions for filing in the BDC. Please note that we have also released a second tutorial video that provides more detailed information about the requirements pertaining to the supporting data about how filers generated their coverage maps that filers must also submit as part of their filings, including the mobile propagation model details, link budget parameters, and clutter data. The FCC's broadband maps will play a critical role in the efforts of federal, state, and tribal governments to assure that essential broadband services are made available to locations throughout the United States, and that funding is carefully targeted to the areas most in need. Timely and accurate data from all providers is therefore of paramount importance. We therefore appreciate your taking the time to watch this tutorial and hope that it will be helpful to mobile broadband providers as they prepare for the inaugural BDC submission starting on June 30th, 2022. We know that the filing will entail considerable effort by providers, and we have therefore already released detailed data parameters and specifications for the collection so that providers can incorporate them into their planning. This web tutorial and its companion tutorial are the next step in our effort to assist mobile providers in getting ready and are part of a broader set of technical assistance materials that the FCC will make available to both mobile and fixed broadband service providers, government and tribal entities, consumers, and other stakeholders who will contribute data and information through the BDC to help us improve the FCC's data on broadband availability throughout the United States. You can find additional information and resources on the BDC by visiting our website at www.fcc.gov/broadbanddata. I note that the website will be regularly updated with additional resources and FAQs as we approach the filing window, and I would therefore encourage you to refer to it often as you prepare. Thank you again for taking the time to watch this video and for your effort to be ready to submit the broadband availability data as of June 30th. I'll now turn it over to Will Holloway, an attorney advisor in the Wireless Telecommunications Bureau, to get us started. Thank you again.
Thank you, Jean. In this video, we'll go over the mobile technologies that require availability reporting. We'll also discuss the standardized modeling parameters adopted for each technology and across technologies, such as download and upload speeds, cell edge probability, and cell loading factor. Also discussed are requirements to model each technology for both outdoor stationary and in-vehicle mobile coverage, and to submit signal strength heat maps. Facilities-based providers of mobile broadband internet access service and/or voice service are required to submit data about where they make mobile service available, including coverage maps for 3G, 4G LTE, 5G NR, and voice technologies. For each technology and speed, providers must submit one coverage map that shows coverage modeled for a mobile device that is outdoor stationary, and within that, coverage modeled for a mobile device that is in-vehicle and mobile. You're not required to submit maps for a particular technology if you do not have a network and service using that technology under the prescribed parameters and do not provide service to end user customers using that technology. Mobile service providers are required to submit separate coverage maps based on the following propagation model parameters. For 3G coverage, a minimum 90% cell edge probability of a download speed of at least 200 kilobits per second and an upload speed of at least 50 kilobits per second, with a minimum 50% cell loading factor. For 4G LTE coverage, a minimum 90% cell edge probability of a download speed of at least 5 megabits per second and an upload speed of at least 1 megabit per second, with a minimum 50% cell loading factor. For 5G NR coverage, two sets of parameters should be modeled. A minimum 90% cell edge probability of a download speed of at least 7 megabits per second and an upload speed of at least 1 megabit per second, with a minimum 50% cell loading factor and a minimum 90% cell edge probability of a download speed of at least 35 megabits per second and an upload speed of at least 3 megabits per second with a minimum 50% cell loading factor. For each combination of technology and speed, that is 3G at 200 kilobits per second download and 50 kilobits per second upload, 4G LTE at 5 megabits per second download and 1 megabit per second upload, and 5G NR at 7 megabits per second download and 1 megabit per second upload, and 5G NR at 35 megabits per second download and 3 megabits per second upload. Mobile service providers should submit a single map containing entirely non-overlapping polygons. Providers may submit each map in multiple files, for example, by state or by market, to facilitate generation and submission of the GIS data, so long as the polygons in one file do not overlap with the polygons in another file for the same technology and speed. To help avoid issues when submitting data, we suggest that filers use GIS software tools to check the validity of all geometries. Additional information on how to do so is available on the BDC Help Center website at help.bdc.fcc.gov, and the FCC will make available resources to assist small providers in correctly formatting their data. Coverage maps must contain GIS data with polygon geometries and associated data attributes in a supported GIS data format. The table in this slide shows the required fields and specifications for the data attributes. This table is also available in section 8.1 of the document titled Broadband Data Collection, Data Specifications for the Biannual Submission of Subscription, Availability, and Supporting Data, also known as the data specifications. For each technology, two different modeled environments must be shown. First, assuming the receiver, i.e. customer handset, is outdoors and stationary, and second, assuming the receiver is in-vehicle and mobile. Coverage modeled for in-vehicle mobile environment should be entirely contained within the coverage modeled for an outdoor stationary environment, and the coverage polygon should therefore indicate either where the model predicts coverage only for an outdoor stationary environment, or where the model predicts coverage for both an outdoor stationary and in-vehicle mobile environment. For each propagation map they submit, mobile broadband service providers must incorporate a heat map depicting ranges of signal strength within the coverage area. For each 4G LTE or 5G NR map that a mobile broadband service provider submits, the provider must incorporate reference signal received power signal levels in decibel milliwatts for each technology, as would be measured at the industry standard of 1.5 meters above ground level from each active cell site. In areas where 3G is the only technology the provider offers, the provider must incorporate received signal strength indicator signal levels in each 3G propagation map. The RSSI and RSRP values should be provided in 10 decibel increments or finer, beginning with a maximum value of -50 decibel milliwatts and continuing to -120 decibel milliwatts. Mobile providers must incorporate the signal strength data as an additional layer on the maps depicting each technology and speed. For example, the outdoor stationary LTE polygon could depict data for both 5 megabits per second download and 1 megabit per second upload speeds at the cell edge and 10 decibel signal strength rings. This slide shows an example of what a provider's map that incorporates signal strength would look like. The required mobile broadband coverage maps must contain GIS data with polygon geometries and associated data attributes. They must be in one of the GIS file formats supported by the BDC system, which are ESRI shapefile, ESRI file GDB, GeoJSON, or Geo package. The required fields and specifications for the data attributes for these GIS data files can be found in section 8.1 of the data specifications. All values are required. Mobile broadband providers are required to submit supporting data about how they generated their coverage maps, including propagation model details and link budget information. The table in this slide provides an overview of the supporting data that mobile providers must submit in the BDC system. You can see the full tables and find more details in section 9 of the data specifications. Mobile voice service providers are required to submit coverage maps for voice service. As with broadband availability maps, providers must model voice coverage for two different environments. One assuming the receiver, i.e. the customer handset, is outdoors and stationary, and another assuming the receiver is in-vehicle and mobile. Coverage modeled for an in-vehicle mobile environment should be entirely contained within the coverage modeled for an outdoor stationary environment. And thus the coverage polygon should indicate either where the model predicts coverage only for an outdoor stationary environment, or where the model predicts coverage for both an outdoor stationary and in-vehicle mobile environment. The required mobile voice coverage maps must contain GIS data with polygon geometries and associated data attributes. The required fields and specifications for the data attributes for these GIS data files are provided in the table in this slide. All values are required. This chart is available in section 8.2 of the data specifications.
Thanks, Will. This concludes our introduction to mobile availability filing. Thanks again for taking time to watch this tutorial and for your effort to be ready to submit mobile broadband availability data as of June 30th. Please watch our companion video for more information on submitting data in support of mobile coverage maps. Questions about the BDC filing requirements may be submitted to the FCC by using the Submit a Request button on the Help Center page, which can be found at fcc.gov/broadbanddata. And please remember to periodically check that website for links to commission orders, notices, tutorials, FAQs, and other resources. Thanks again.